Hi, I'm Niall Harris, and I am thrilled to be partnering with Kiwanis Amplify in presenting Essential Strategy: How to Close the Strategy to Execution Gap. I have more than 20 years of experience in general management, strategy, marketing, working with Fortune 500s, mid-sized companies, and nonprofits. And one thing has been consistently true: strategy is important. It's one of the most overlooked and underutilized tools in the toolbox. So today I'm going to be sharing with you how to close the strategy to execution gap. I'm going to be talking about clarity of strategy, what strategy is and what it is not, then what are the critical elements that you need to include to craft a winning strategy, and lastly, we're going to talk about the most important component of strategy, and that is execution. So let's get started. Getting clear about your strategy is the first part of this journey. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Now, people tend to put a lot into strategy when strategy is really more narrowly focused than all of the things that we want to put in there. When you think about your strategy, you first need to understand why. What's your mission? What's your vision? Simon Sinek says, first start with why, because it will drive everything from your company in terms of your brand, who you are, and what you want to represent to your customers. Now, if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make dollars. For your customer, if you are not clear in what you offer and what you stand for and why you are different or unique, your customer will be confused, and a confused mind buys nothing. So let's really talk about what it means to get clear about our strategy and what strategy is and what it is not. Now, like I said, decide on who you want to be. If you want to be a cupcake maker, decide that you want to be the best cupcake maker there is. Maybe you want to do cupcakes in specific types of flavors or shapes, or maybe you want to do wedding cupcakes that have like the tiers, but decide who that is, your story, because that is going to be the basis of your brand. And when you get that right, it's going to attract your ideal customer, and you want to know who your ideal customer is. So once you know who you are, you need to set about understanding exactly who your target audience is. And that comes from creating a customer avatar or a customer profile. You want to know what they eat, where they go, what they read, what they do in their free time. Do they listen to podcasts? Are they more likely to read magazines? It's up to you. Then you want to make trade-offs. You cannot do everything and you cannot sell to everyone, because if you try to sell to everyone, you will actually sell to no one. You need to make trade-offs in the short term in order to gain your long-term advantages. If you are always focused on, well, we're going to make lots of money and have lots of cupcake shops 5 years from now, you're missing your opportunity to build a base. Strategy is about what we won't do as much as it is about what we will do. And a good strategy also creates fit across the organization. And what that means is all organizations are singing and working off of the same sheet of music. They all know what the actual strategy is, the mission, the vision, and what those top 3 or 4 strategic initiatives are. Everyone needs to be working toward the same goals. And if something comes up that does not fit with those goals or those strategic initiatives, the answer is no. So think of it as you tell your left hand to do something and you tell your right hand to do something, and they just start doing their own thing, but you want both of your hands to play the piano. This is when organizations create silos, or they go off and do just separate things that don't really support the overall brand or the overall marketing strategy of the company. So you want to have fit, and you want to choose what you will do as well as what you won't do. Now let's talk about strategy is not. It's not hope. Now I know that is a very popular saying. Hope is not a strategy, because it's true. It's not a strategy. And this is different from putting out a minimally viable product out into the market. You'd be surprised how many people will put a 100% perfect product out into the market without having done any research, hoping that their target audience will come across it and buy it. We don't want that. Strategy is also not a list of activities or goals. That's just being busy. You want to have specific strategic initiatives. What are the goals underneath those? What are the metrics and KPIs under those? And strategy is not operational effectiveness. Operational effectiveness is really about what are the best practices, the systems, and integrations. And strategy is about how you're unique or innovating or creating something new in a space. Operational effectiveness can often be confused with strategy because it gives the companies and organizations the sense that they are completing or doing something. It's very alluring, but it's really validating your systems and your execution, where strategy is about making choices and choosing to play in a space. How do you want to be seen and perceived? What do you want to be known as at the best at in the world? That's really what strategy is getting toward. Operational effectiveness does not create strategic or competitive advantage. Now let's look at Southwest Airlines, one of my favorite examples of being very strategic. Let's talk about what they get right. They defined their niche. They wanted customers who had to travel a lot, wanted to do it cheaply, and also wanted to have fun while doing it. And if you've been on a Southwest flight, there are some great singers in that group. Am I right? They also have a unique value proposition. They designed their fleet to not be a part of a hub and spoke. Their unique value proposition is that they have fun, they have low fees, there's open seating, and that's a great unique value proposition for the customer. They also created a unique value proposition for their employees. The pilots love flying for Southwest because they're known to keep their fleet in the air and constantly flying. And for pilots, that is something that they really love. And they have structured operations. The part where I was saying before about if it doesn't fit in their strategic initiatives or goals, the answer is no. And they also have fit. HR is looking for people that fit that organization, pilots who want to fly, flight attendants who can sing. Their systems are geared toward having the systems they need to support. They turn planes around very quickly. So they have a very structured operation that is in line with who and what they want to be in this space. Are you still with me? I know you are. Let's get started with how to craft a winning strategy with these critical elements and components. I'm going to explain to you why the hedgehog always beats the fox, but not quite yet. I want to first start with the actual structure or DNA of your strategy that your company needs. You need to start with why. And I mentioned earlier, Simon Sinek's Start With Why. You can also watch the TED Talk, but it explains how you can determine your why, but your why is going to propel everything forward. For example, my why is to do good in the world by helping do-gooders do good in the world. Then vision and mission. I see a lot of companies miss this. They just want to dive in, get started and sell product or attract their clients and customers. But having a good vision and mission is a great way to attract your clients and customers to you. And values. Not every company has them or maybe hasn't published them, but they are a great way to also attract customers and employees that you want. Companies with values also tend to outperform other companies. Now, let's take a step back at vision and mission for a moment. A lot of times, two companies will kind of conflate those two together. Vision is how the world would be different once you accomplish your mission. And your mission is what it is that you're trying to do. A great example of a vision statement is St. Jude's Children's Hospital, where no child will die of cancer. That is their vision. It's very clear, it's crisp, and you understand what that is. And everything around their mission or all the work that they do supports that vision, including like sharing research or no families don't pay for treatment. An example of a mission statement would be JFK's mission to the moon. He laid out a clear timeline, what he wanted to accomplish, and what it meant to the people, and why he was doing it in the first place. Values are a great way to use as a framework to evaluate employees, and it also will help your customers know what they can expect when dealing with you. And this is really important. And also, this lays out that DNA or that pathway again, because if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Now, let's talk about the unique value proposition. I've used this word a couple of times. If you try to sell to everyone, you will sell to no one because not everyone wants your product. I've said it again and I'll say it some more. You have to know who your target audience is. You have to know what they want, where they are, what books do they read, because that is who's going to be most attracted to your unique value proposition. Another way to think of unique value proposition is, what do you want to be better at than anyone else in the world? Why should a person pick you versus your competition? If you want to be a cupcake maker, are you the best cupcake maker because of your variety of flavors, your uniqueness? Do you ship them all over the world? What are you doing different from your competition? And why is that important to the very niche area or market of people that you are trying to attract to your company? Now let's take a step back and look at the planning roadmap. We've talked about like that strategic direction, where you're going, what's your vision. Your strategic initiatives I've mentioned, and those are the high level plans that you're going to embark upon in order to bring about your strategy. It's the how. Underneath that are your goals, and goals are going to be very clear with owners and dates, because a goal without a date is really just a wish. And underneath that are the tactics or actions that you are going to do to bring those goals about. Now, a lot of times people will confuse tactics and actions with strategy, or they'll confuse them with goals. Goals are smart, or there are other ways that you could think about goals, but they're specific and they're measurable. And if you can't measure the goal, then it might not be a goal. Underneath the tactics are the metrics. Those are the things that you use to measure how well or not well you are doing at accomplishing those tactics, actions, or tasks. And key performance indicators are really those maybe 3 or 4 indicators that let you know how well you're doing. So if you have a list of 10 metrics, maybe 3 of those are actually KPIs. Another way to think of it is, if you have social media marketing as part of your goals or in your strategy and your tactics, likes, follows, things like that are your metrics, your list of metrics. That if you have cupcake recipes that you're putting out, people who save your recipes to their Instagram profile is a great example of a KPI. Let's look at how Southwest Airlines does this and what they get right about being the hedgehog. Okay, I promised you I'm going to tell you about the hedgehog. If you have read Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, he uses the parable about the hedgehog and the fox. The fox is always trying to get the hedgehog. It's sort of a roadrunner situation. Every day the fox comes and does the same thing. The hedgehog escapes from the fox because the hedgehog knows exactly what the fox is going to do every day. The fox just sort of goes out and randomly does things. And the fox sees the world as a complex set of choices and sort of just randomly does everything. The hedgehog sees the world as a complex set of choices, but integrates all of that information. So Southwest is the hedgehog. It sees the world as a complex set of choices. It understands its target market, and it caters to that. And from the brand to the why to the mission, and we've talked about what they get right about strategy. They say no to anything that does not support their strategy or their initiatives or their brands. They are mission aligned. So they have pilots who love to fly, flight attendants who love to sing, have a good time, and make sure that their customers are having fun. And they have structured operations, from their employee unions to how they pay benefits, all of that. They are a hedgehog. Can you think of some airlines that might be more like the fox? So when we think about the hedgehog and the fox, you want to be the hedgehog. Okay, here we are at the most critical part. We've talked about the strategy. Now we're going to talk about how to get those things done. We're going to make the pieces whole, and this is how you are going to become the hedgehog. We're going to get into actual execution, how we do this, and what does that look like? Identity. I've talked about what your identity is, your brand. Who is it that you want to attract? Getting real tight on who your target audience is. If you don't have this, go ahead, press pause. I'll wait. I'll be here when you get back. Write this down. Then what is your daily strategy? I like to call this daily greatness. What are you going to do every day, every week, every month, every quarter to ensure that you are hitting those goals, making sure that you have proper goals? What are the tactics? Are you measuring them? Are you making data-driven decisions? Say no. I get it. Shiny object syndrome, it's very alluring, but what are you going to say no to? If it doesn't fit in what you're trying to accomplish, don't be afraid to say no to it. Put your culture to work. And what I mean by this is you have people in your network or people in your company who are skilled beyond their job description and they actually want to help. Most people want to be part of the solution, and oftentimes they're overlooked in trying to solve problems or in challenges because it's not their job, when actually they might want to. So ask your workforce, put out surveys. If it's a small workforce or maybe it's just you, think about your network. Put something out on LinkedIn. Ask people how they want to be engaged or how they could help be part of the problem. That can be a great source of ideas that you haven't thought of. And it makes them feel part of a family or part of a culture. Then you want to cut costs. I mean, I know that's really simple, but when you're getting started, especially when you're a startup or solopreneur, you tend to sometimes forget about keeping track of costs, especially if you're a solopreneur. Get that spreadsheet out and make sure you're tracking your costs and cut those things that you don't need, or be on the lookout for things that do what you want them to do, but are less expensive. And then shape the future. What I mean, Abraham Lincoln said the best way to predict the future is to create it. So think about the future in terms of what you can do. I once worked with a small organization. Their entire strategy was based on the framework of what they weren't good at. And instead of saying that we want to be the best in organizational excellence or we want to be the best in this space, their framework was, well, we aren't good here, so these are the things that we want to do to get better. No. Think about how you are in the ways that you want to be. Claim it. We are the best at organizational excellence. We are the best when it comes to making all of these wonderful cupcakes. Shape your future with your words, your thoughts, and your actions, and the success will follow. That went by fast. Here we are at the end, and I want to do a quick recap with you so that you can mind the gap when it comes to going from strategy to execution. We talked about getting clear on what your strategy is, because if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. You want to know who you are, what is your story, what's your why, your mission, your vision, but you also want to know who you serve, who's your target audience. I can't say this enough, because once you get that clear, everything else will follow. The next thing are the critical elements of your winning strategy. So that vision, mission, your company ethos, the values, and everything that you stand for, because that will also help attract who you are, but it will also help you in saying no to things, and being able to clearly identify those things that you are willing to sacrifice today so that you can have those long-term goals. What's that unique value proposition? What do you want to be better at than anyone else in the world? And why should people choose you instead of your competition? And then most importantly, how to get things done. You are ready to be the hedgehog, right? So you got to plan the work and then work the plan. And don't forget about the people who are already around you in your network or who are at the company who can help you with solving problems. Make sure that you're setting great goals that have timelines, dates, their accountability metrics, who is responsible for what, and make data-driven decisions by using your metrics and your key performance indicators or KPIs. and also have fun. Those folks from Southwest absolutely know how to have fun. So you are ready to be the hedgehog here. So I'm Niall Harris. This has been Essential Strategy: How to Close the Strategy to Execution Gap with Kiwanis Amplify. I hope that you were able to get a better understanding of how you can shape your future by spending the time now to get clear on your strategy.